welcome back to Rupy's Break from Reality, where you find me in the, on a detour from the main trip. I'm in Bali. Can you believe? Bali. So the second part of the detour, I will come back to you later. But I'd show you the beaches and whatnot in Bali, but I can't today because it's Silent Day. And so the whole country is shut down and no one is allowed out. Unless you happen to be an emergency worker, which I don't think I'd ever be able to justify that. And so, it being Silent Day, a day of reflection and whatnot, I thought this would be a perfect time to talk about the Genocide Museum in Cambodia, or in Phnom Penh, which is in Cambodia. So you know what I mean. It's a very difficult place to visit. It was a very difficult place to walk around. And this will probably be quite a difficult video to watch. So if you don't get through it all, I'll understand. But the first picture is of the outside, the Tuol Sleng Museum, which started life as a school and then was converted into a detention centre, a torture centre, and frankly, a murder centre. If you've ever seen the film The Killing Fields, this is one of the places that was referred to in the film, and was one of the places that was used to for Cambodians to torture other Cambodians, but not just Cambodians, but we'll come back to that later. The next picture are the graves of the last 14 prisoners who were found, or the bodies of the last 14 prisoners who were found. We don't know their names, we don't know who they were, we don't know any of their history. We just know that their bodies were found when the Pol Pot regime was overthrown and people went into the museum. There is a plaque stating that this should be a memory for the world, and is there as a tribute to the 18,000 people, more than 18,000 people who were killed in that one small site. And it is a relatively small site. So we have school buildings, and the buildings were converted, or the classrooms were converted into cells and interrogation centres. Most of them have been left exactly as they've been found. The bits that have been removed were the bodies. But what you can see in a couple of the pictures are photographs on the wall, and those photographs showed the bodies that were left on beds. The desks were used by the interrogators to generate false confessions that people were CIA agents, or that they were plotting to overthrow or were against the Pol Pot regime. It was a crazy place. It is a crazy place. There's a sign, and if you get an opportunity to pause the video and just expand it and read the sign, it makes for really interesting reading. But these are the rules of engagement, the rules that the prisoners had to abide by whilst they were being interrogated. Things like, if you get hurt, don't cry out. You can't disagree with any of the the interrogators or their questions. Read it. It's really interesting. Now, the climbing frame was originally a climbing frame. Remember, it's a school, or it was a school, but it was converted into gallows. But not gallows in the traditional sense, in the sense that people were hanged from there by the necks. It was used in a slightly more gruesome, far more gruesome way. And if you look at the picture, the painting, just to the left of the photograph, you'll get an idea of exactly how it was used. Right, let me just turn the page, because I've had to make notes on this one. As I said earlier, it wasn't just Cambodians who were held there. There were some Westerners, and there was one story in particular which I found really troubling. 3 Westerners Kerry Hamill, a Kiwi, Stuart Glass, a Canadian, and John Dewhurst, a British teacher, who were sailing around the world. They were just backpacking effectively, and strayed into Cambodian waters unknowingly. They were captured, and then one of them, Stuart Glass, was shot pretty much on sight, but the other two were taken to the Tuol Sleng Centre, or S21 as it was called, and were tortured, interrogated, and forced to sign confessions. Now, on the voiceover that you listen to whilst you're walking around the centre, tells the story of how Kerry Williams dealt with being tortured. And so his confession is full of, he's named spies. He's admitted that he was a CIA agent, which he wasn't. And he's named some of his co-collaborators who were all who were characters from fiction. But the interrogators just didn't realise that they were characters from fiction, and so accepted the confession, still killed him afterwards, but he had his last laugh. But one of the things that I found so troubling about it was that they were just backpackers, just wandering around the world, doing pretty much what I'm doing right now. But when you look at the other criteria that we used to hold people there, if you were educated, if you had soft hands, if you wore glasses, if you could speak French, oui, je parle un peu, they were all reasons that we used to arrest people and torture people and to ultimately murder them. And I think that's one of the reasons that I found it such a difficult place to visit, because it's me. I have soft hands. I wear glasses. I like to think of myself as reasonably educated. Je parle un peu de français. And I'm just wandering around the world. Could have been me. And that was quite a scary thought. But moving on. The next set of pictures is from the Chongek Centre, which was actually one of the killing fields. And so as you enter the museum, you come across a stupa, that tall structure, which we'll come back to later. And then the rest of the camp is signs showing where various buildings and where the mass graves were found. The tree is signposted as the killing tree. And it was found, or it is, next to a mass grave that contained women and children. I mean, children, babies. And the tree was used to kill those babies. This bit's properly gruesome. So what the interrogators did was they'd pick up the children by their legs and then smash the bodies against the trees in front of their mothers. I told you, it's not pleasant. But all of the little the souvenirs, the little ringlets that are left as memorials by visitors to the site. Now, coming back to the stupa, that again is a memorial, and it contains the skulls, or some of the skulls, of the prisoners who were found, or the bodies that were found in the mass graves. And they've all been categorized. So they've been categorized according to age, to sex, to the cause of death. And it's, again, I've seen dead bodies, and at school I've seen skeletons, but not ones where you can see the evidence of injury, proper evidence of injury, holes, like, where a skull has been stoved in by a hammer or an iron rod or a machete. And bone fragments, teeth, fragments of cloth. are still being found today, especially when it rains, because the rain brings up the soil and brings them to the fore. And then the final picture is the statue, which has a very simple message, but a very important message, which is never will we forget the crimes committed during the democratic Kampuchea regime. I certainly won't forget it, and I don't think anyone who's actually been to the museum will forget it. If you get the opportunity, it's a hard watch, it's a hard thing to do, but it is thoroughly recommended. It's an important thing to do. Take care.